Hi folks, it's Mark Merrill with Farm. In our journal notes on today's program, Janet Mills, might as well let her burn. Today's episode is about how Governor Mills has made a decision without making a decision on responding to President Trump's notice that her administration is in violation of federal Title IX regulations. When does it end? It's been almost 5 days now since she got that letter from President Trump's DHHS, Office of Civil Rights, notice. So how can anyone make a decision, ladies and gentlemen, on important problems, especially in life? All of us working class and even the ones above. You don't make decisions on important things that have to get done. Nothing's going to get done. Or for that matter, in this case, legal matters. How can that be just avoided without making an effort to resolve them? Well, here's a discussion from the point of view of the hosts of the Maine Policy Institute recently. Hope you'll find this quite enlightening, folks.
I mean, you don't need to call up Sherlock Holmes on this one, frankly. I mean, Scotland Yard doesn't really need to be on speed dial on this. All you have to really do is log on to Facebook and go to Laurel Libby's page, and you're going to see evidence immediately on this one. I think that the only real thing that even needed to be discussed was interpretation of Title IX, and that was probably what they spent the time doing. And there were some interesting pieces, I think, on Maine Public with some previous civil rights attorneys on the methodology on that. If something is not necessarily in the strict letter of the law, they'll do some work on seeing if the behavior in the state is actually compliant, how vague or clear the law is on this subject, how to proceed, and that was probably all they spent that time doing, how to actually proceed with Maine, whether to offer negotiations or not.
Things don't normally work that fast in government, but it's pretty clear to me that in the Trump administration, in the Trump White House, things are certainly moving fast.
Happening pretty quick, yeah.
They're moving fast, they're breaking things. I think it's so funny, you see the headlines, especially in Maine media, that are like, experts say you never could have done an investigation this fast. Like, well, when Trump first issued this executive order, you have Governor Mills, you have the DOE, you have multiple different agencies within state government issuing guidance to schools and to the MPA and to these other things that have anything to do with enforcement of Title IX in schools, saying you will follow the Maine Human Rights Act. And they are specifically talking about the gender identity provision of the Maine Human Rights Act, which we discussed last week. So how long do you want this investigation to be? The president issued an executive order. You immediately told everybody to defy it, and then you're shocked that they concluded an investigation in just a matter of days. Well, what did you want them to do? Well, you immediately defied the order. It's not rocket science here to get to the bottom of why you were found to be in violation of the Trump administration's Title IX rules.
Well, all the howling quotes inside at least the BDN piece that I'm reading right now, from lawmakers and quote-unquote, I'm going to do the air quotes, experts in this, say that, well, what they usually do is they sit down with lawmakers and stakeholders, and they do interviews, and honestly, that's great and everything, but to Jake's point, there's nothing really to investigate here. What is the administration's interpretation of Title IX? What's law? And what is Maine doing? And you don't have to interview a lawmaker from Auburn or Lincoln to figure that out. Like, it's basically up to your interpretation. So,
well, in that case, Aaron Frey won't feel special then. Is I think if he doesn't get his interview with the Trump administration,
Yeah.
More Mills officials need to cuss at and storm out of meetings with the Trump administration for an investigation to be fully concluded.
Would they even agree to interviews? I mean, if Trump wanted to? I mean, probably not.
Well, you recall that the governor's initial statement when this investigation was launched which Ben Goodman, her spokesperson, reminded us of, is that, quote, I imagine the outcome of this politically directed investigation is all but premeditated. So, to that point, I don't think they would have cooperated, right? They said from the very beginning, before anything even happened, this is probably just a foregone conclusion, and we're not going to really, pretend like this is a real thing. So, yeah, why would they cooperate if they really thought that? So.
Yeah, well, to his point, I mean, the track championship meet that Laurel Libby posted about happened after that executive order. So, again, it's not rocket science. It's really easy to find out that the state of Maine is following the Maine Human Rights Act, not federal Title IX rules as interpreted by the Trump administration. So
I still dispute that they're following the Maine Human Rights Act.
And what's especially funny to me is, like, looking back at Mills' original statement, if it's such a, like, bygone conclusion, why are you surprised it was so fast?
Yeah. What's the matter? She hasn't got a clue, folks. Not even a whisker of a clue. So you see, as you notice now, the past is not that far back. That's a picture of Donald Trump signing that executive order. Look how many young biological women, athletes, are around him when he signed it. Just in February. Folks, and also this goes out to parents of children who participate in athletics. We're going to read you a breakdown from a notice March 13th on the Maine Policy Institute's Pine Tree Pulse that they put out on a every other day basis, practically, to help show us all how common sense facts and reality checks are a lot easier than the deflectocrats' ways of blame and bullying Maine citizens and lawmakers like Laurel Libby by demanding they just shut up by censuring her or them or U.S. citizens who get in the way. Now, this first one is entitled Janet Mills is in Trouble. So you think maybe? We'll give you a link for the Maine Policy Institute as well, folks. You can find it at the end of this particular program. We certainly urge you to check some of their conversations and maybe even subscribe to the Maine Policy Institute. They're incredible. With a team and a staff behind them, they've got more time to research than I do. But we have our researchers and contributors ourselves. On the Pine Tree Pulse, they talked about the Trump administration finding Maine in violation of Title IX. Now, this was on March 13th, not that long ago. Over the state's transgender sports policy, as you heard, and what is likely to happen as a result, Mills may be signaling an SOS to her party in the legislature, but will they help bail her out? Hard to know the answer to that one, folks. She's too busy bitching and moaning at other people. The Maine Policy Institute also continued talking about the fallout from the censure of Ms. Libby. In other political news, briefly, there are rumblings that former Governor Paul LePage may be exploring a potential run for Maine's 2nd Congressional District in 2026, and what that would look like if Jared Golden runs for the seat again. And they're also looking at a new report, Under Construction Fixing Maine's Self-Imposed Housing Crisis. The report analyzes the impact of local housing policies and proposes solutions to promote housing availability and affordability throughout the state. And the Maine Policy Institute explains why your housing, or your existing house for that matter, costs so much and why there aren't enough of them. And lastly, folks, all due respect to Ms. Libby and everything here, we've got a big problem we've had for quite some time. This may be a caricature, folks, but it pretty much rings loudly. I would think to all parents of school children, no matter whether they're in classrooms or they're on the playing field or court, as the case might be. The smaller print indicates from a Washington Examiner cover story. Reclaiming moral instruction from the state. Augusta is burning, says Maine Policy Institute as of March 14th. Senate Republicans stand firm and refuse a phony compromise budget. As in the meantime, Laurel Libby's lawsuit takes shape, and guess what? It's the 5-year anniversary of the COVID shutdown. First, the continuing drama in Augusta over the supplemental budget winds down, and there appears to be no movement from the Democrats on Medicaid and general assistance welfare reform. That means no deal, Monty Hall. Senate Republicans remain firm on their demand for reform, but how does that end, and what does it mean for the next budget fight? You'll have to tune in to Maine Policy Institute for that one, folks. Laurel Libby, meantime, and several of her constituents are arguing that the removal of her vote and speaking privileges is a violation of not only the First Amendment, but also the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Pray for her prospects in court and how it will end. And lastly, folks, the 5-year anniversary, March 15th, was the 5-year anniversary of the declaration of a state of emergency due to COVID-19, and a familiar face, Dr. Nirav Shah, came back to Maine recently, here in 2025. A lot of us remember what happened and why. We should be open to discussion over the most egregious decisions and mistakes that were made. So when that's all taken care of, folks, we thank you for joining us for this brief but important program when it comes to not just Laurel Libby's situation, fight against being censured, but also to fight and to make sure that everything is in order, despite the fact that, she has to keep going and just being thrown all over the northern New England region just to get a judge to listen to her. I recuse myself. Come on, 3 of them all at once? There's something funny going on there, folks. In Portland. Give me a break. No. That's not the way the legal system works. It's a criminal justice system. I hope we can get down to the bottom of it. With organizations like the Maine Policy Institute and the Maine Wire, we certainly should, folks. And you should stay tuned, as much as you can, to FIRM. Fairness in Reporting Media with yours truly, Mark Merrill. 5 episodes a week, right here on rumble.com/fairnessmedia1, and also 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com for your input and your ideas, especially on topics that we may not have even thought of. We are constantly researching and looking out for your First Amendment rights and the rest of them under the Bill of Rights in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, And also, right up behind us here, always truth, facts, reality, and common sense. In the meantime, you all take care of everybody in your family. Stay safe. Peace to all.